Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Art Whisperer 88, and today I'm going to make use of my leftover cutouts. As you can see here, there's quite a bit of them, and these shapes will come in handy when I print the first print from the previous video. So what I'm going to do is put these guys aside, and before I do anything I will charge the plate. Now I didn't clean this too much because I wanted to leave some of the remnants of the paint, and it would add to the texture. Let me do a long shot. Okay, so I'm going to use this Lucas called Caramel because it's going to contrast with the dark blue of the print, which I will show you in a minute. And then I'm adding some cadmium red. Okay. And I'm going to do an even film of paint because I'm going to apply the paper stencils on top of this. And by combining these two colors, I get a very painterly background. That's what I'm after. Now I've in printmaking class, each method of printmaking has its specific characteristics. I'll give you an example. I did silk screen for a very long time, and the characteristic of silk screen is that the surfaces that are produced are extremely flat. They're very perfect and very flat. And this method with the gel plate is the opposite, because you can do very painterly effects with the brayer and a brush and whatever textures you want to produce. It could be bubble wrap, it could be wooden dowels. So speaking of wooden dowels, I'm going to do my favorite scribble work. I'm just doing an overall scribble here because it's going to be evenly distributed. And then I'm going to lay the stencils on. Again, I'm not trying to over-plan this. This is just very spontaneous. I thought instead of painting around these pieces, I'll just lay them on top. And you'll see in a minute, it's much easier to watch than for me to explain in so many words. Okay. Let's see if I can fit in some more. And I have to keep in mind that the result is the reverse. So, okay, keeping my fingers crossed. This is the first pull from that previous video. I kind of made the mistake of putting too much. I overestimated the amount of paint. So this is kind of a remedy for that. As you can see, there's not much texture here. It's pretty much very flat. And I'm going to remedy that by adding this second layer and see what happens. Try not to smear the top. Now the smear happens when you hesitate. Much later in another video I will show you my new registration device so that the paper falls on the same place all the time. It's a pair of wooden moldings. I stopped using those foam pieces because after a while they fall apart. Okay, just applying very even pressure on the whole print, and hopefully the paint will transfer. This is the flip side of not having a printing press. You have to do everything manually, but considering my conditions, my situation living in a small apartment, it doesn't make sense to have a printing press. Okay, let's see what we got. I think we have a very interesting result, and I am glad that the stencils are not sticking. It's a nice surprise. Okay, this is pretty much what I had hoped for, to create two different zones and break up the flatness of the blue. And because the stencils are fairly thick, here I'll show you. This is cardstock, and then when they get a layer of paint on them, they get stronger and stronger. It's almost like a plastic film. So they become tougher. And by being tough, you create these very sharp, defined edges. And I'm quite pleased with the result. So I'm going to let this air dry. I have my little fan here, and I'd rather use this fan that blows cool air than using a hair dryer. I'm not a big proponent of using a heated hair dryer. I don't know what effect it would have on the plate, so I try to avoid applying heat, and I just use a cool air to speed up the drying process. So anyways, I'm gonna take a short break, let this air dry, and I'll be back with some collage fun. So don't go away. Okay, I'm back from a short break. The print is completely dry by now, and I have added some more paper stencils. I did a mix of copy paper and the cardstock paper, and what I'm gonna do is put a few drops of this aqua green, just a few drops, and then just to help the brayer along, I'm going to dab a few areas with my brush. So I can just get into the little nooks and crannies here. And at the same time, I can create like a kind of a painterly approach. Let's try to get the paint into the small areas, like here and here. Okay, and there. So that's the aqua green, and then here is Arctic. This is also made by Lucas, and it's a very pale blue. Now by adding the aqua Arctic, kind of increases the contrast with the dark blue. It's almost like oil painting. I thought of doing this because sometimes when you just rely on the brayer to apply paint, it pulls the stencils off the plate, and that's very annoying. Because you go through all this trouble and then you have your stencil get pulled off. Okay, Just want to make sure there are no high spots, like little lumps. Okay. Then I'm gonna come in with my brayer and just even things out. Oops, that was like a domino. What the brayer then does is flatten out the high spots so they don't get blotchy on the print. But at the same time, I know that all the little nooks and crannies have been taken care of. Now it will be a little bit of a challenge to take these stencils off, but if I do it slowly, I can okay. Just clean off some smears here. And let's see. Now, I had a viewer express some concern that I'm using a razor blade to take the stencils off. Now, I have been working with razor blades for a very long time, and I actually feel very comfortable using them. It doesn't hurt the plate because the plate is very springy, and this is pointed enough and fine enough that I can get underneath the paper. Like so. Now, had I used a more blunt instrument, it would be a problem. Actually, that causes more damage to the plate when you use a blunt instrument. Okay, and this is the last piece. There we go. And hopefully this will work out. Like I said many times before, I never know what the outcome is. So here, to refresh your memory, here's the print with 2 layers. Okay, I'm going to do a 3rd layer with a very light blue and see what happens. Now, I have a feeling that this 3rd layer is going to leave a ghost print because I'm using the paint full strength. It's not diluted or watery. It's has the consistency of oil paint. So sometimes when it's very thick like that, some of it or most of it can get left behind if I don't press hard enough, or if I don't leave the paper long enough. But we'll see. I'm very optimistic that this will work out. Okay, I'm going to leave this for a good half hour, and I'll be right back. Okay, here's the moment of truth. It's been almost half an hour, and I can't wait to see the result. So here goes. Yep, it does look like an oil painting. And the brushwork actually shows. And I like it a lot because it's so totally different from the effects of the other ones. So here is the third layer, and I'm very happy with this. I didn't expect it to look like this. In fact, I'd be scratching my head if I had to do this over as an oil painting. I wouldn't know where to start because the details are so subtle. And here you can see the successive layer of blue, and then there's orange, and then there's turquoise. But it all together is a very pleasing combination. So I'm gonna let this dry. I'm gonna turn on my fan. And let this dry, air dry with a cool air, and I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back from a short break, just enough time to give this some drying time. I noticed that because this is a heavier than usual application of paint, it's still a little tacky, but I can, leave this out overnight and it will dry. So I went through my box of scraps again, and I found these. This again is a leftover stencil, and I cut it like that. So I'm going to put one piece here and another piece there. This is also a piece of copy paper with the lines that I like. It goes there. It's a little sliver of tissue just to balance out the composition. And then I have my warm-up circles, and I think they would look good here. So I'm gonna go ahead and mount these. Now mounting a thin piece of tissue is much easier because I just do it from the top. Now this is a little, so I go like so. And then place that down. And hopefully it will be very transparent and you can see, you'll be able to see the background textures. That's why I like this Mod Podge so much. It's very versatile. This goes here. And then this piece here. Again, the advantage of this Mod Podge is it mounts the piece and at the same time it seals it, so it becomes essentially it makes it archival. If it was like a fragile piece of tissue, if it's saturated with the glue, it seals it and protects it from the air. There. So I'm quite happy with this result. And I'm glad to be able to return to bright colors again. I go through these cycles of doing black and white and then returning to color and then doing monochromatic pieces. And I'm quite pleased with this, if I may say so myself. And again, I want to thank you for watching, and all you subscribers. I want to show my appreciation, and I hope to see you next time.